Business writing, the topic that is usually ignored by professionals until they make a really, really bad mistake. Today, we are going to discuss 10 that can hurt your careers or just make you look really bad. Make sure you stick around until the end, where we're going to discuss the one issue that many forget and has the real ability to be a career killer. I'm Mary Schaefer from AP Now, the place where you go for all the business intelligence if you work in, have responsibility for, or manage the accounts payable function. Okay, we're going to talk about these little mistakes that people make that can make you really, really look bad. Of course, whenever you do any business writing, you want to incorporate the 7 C's of effective business communication: clarity, correctness, conciseness, courtesy, concreteness, consideration, and completeness. But we're not going to talk about that, okay? And mostly we're going to focus on email. So number one, and you know this, but it catches people time and time again. Don't forget to focus on the difference between reply and reply all. I'm sure we've all got stories. I want to say funny stories, but often they're not really funny stories. They can do some real harm when you hit that reply all instead of reply. Okay, that's mistake number one. Mistake number two, don't forget the basics. Things like capitalizing all sentences, using proper English, using proper punctuation, and of course, correct spelling. In many instances, that email that you send out will be the first contact or communication you have with an executive, with somebody you want to do business with. And you know what they say about first impressions. Really hard to overcome that. Okay. Next mistake, and I see this as a mistake. You may not see it as, but I really do. Don't turn off spell check. The beauty of spell check is it puts those little red lines underneath the word telling you, hey, go back and check the spelling. Now, you may think you turn it off and you think, okay, it looks fine. You go ahead and send it out. Unfortunately, your boss probably does have spell check on. And when it shows up in his email box or her email box, that red line will be just there waving, say, hey, look who made a mistake. And even if it's not, even if they don't have it turned on, somehow your eyes always go to the spelling errors that other people make, not the ones that you make, but the ones that other people make. Okay, once you've finished writing something, be it a memo, an email, whatever it is, it doesn't really matter. Don't forget to go back and check for run-on sentences. I know this is one of my big flaws. Go back and look, the sentence goes on for 3, 4, 5 lines. You want to take a look and say, hey, can I maybe take out an and make it 2 sentences? And will it be a little bit clearer then? It usually is. Okay. Next mistake, don't forget to make sure your paragraphs are in easy, digestible chunks. So if you have a long paragraph, and you can see that visually, that goes on and on, just go back and break it sometimes into even 3 or 4 paragraphs. You want to make sure that, people's eyes don't glaze over when they see it, or they lose their spot in the middle of your paragraph and then whatever. So just make sure short sentences, short paragraphs. Okay, next mistake. Don't forget to check to make sure that every thought that you have, every sentence that you have includes a verb. Sometimes when you're writing fast, the thoughts are going through your head quickly. You're writing, and you don't really have complete sentences. And one way to check that is, do you have a capitalization at the beginning? Is there a verb? And do you have a period? Okay, so don't forget to check for those verbs. I can't tell you how many times I've seen that one, and it seems like, oh, nobody would do that, but people do. Okay. Don't forget to check for clarity. When you go back and you read, this is especially important if there's more than one person in the discussion. And if there is, and you refer to he or she, is it really crystal clear who you're referring to? If there can be any sort of a misinterpretation, go back and put the person's name in, Tom or John or Mary or Jane, so that it can be really, really clear. If you're trying to make a number of points, don't forget to use bullet points. It can just make things a lot clearer. It's like having short sentences and shorter paragraphs. Those bullet points really bring it home. So if you want to say, hey, we have 3 alternatives, 1, 2, and 3, bullet point them. It'll stand out. And after you bullet point them and you go back and you look at your email, you might want to consider going in and putting a space between each bullet point if you haven't done that, if it hasn't automatically put that in. Okay, now before we get to the last two, which are real doozies and could really hurt your career, I'd like to invite you to hit the subscribe button. It's free, completely private, and you can unsubscribe at any time. And if you happen to be watching this on YouTube, you can hit that bell next to the subscribe button to be notified when we post new content, which we do 2 or 3 times a week. And best of all, on YouTube, you can subscribe if you have a Gmail account. You don't have to have the YouTube account. Alrighty. Now, moving on to the next item, number 9, if you will. Don't forget that emails can be forwarded and copied without your knowledge, okay? So make sure you haven't done any of the things that we've discussed already and that you haven't put anything in that email that you wouldn't want shared with the world, because before you know it, somebody will do a reply all, or somebody will forward it to somebody who you may have maligned in the email. So you want to have complete control. So be very, very careful about what you put in an email before you hit that send button. And the last one, and for that matter, even when you're writing one-on-one to a person, somebody that you trust, maybe you have a great relationship with your boss and you're writing back and forth, and let's say it's your boss's boss who's a real jerk. So you put something in there, he's really stupid or whatever, something derogatory. And anyway, the emails go back and forth, and then you start discussing a project and you go back and forth a little bit more about that. And then your boss thinks, you know what, we really should get Joe involved in this. We're going to need his approval or whatever they decide. And so they take that last email that you sent and they forward it to the person. And that email is fine. But what both of you have forgotten is that below that, when you do the forward, are all the prior emails where you've had this discussion. You've called him a jerk, called him stupid, some other thing that you really, really are not really that interested in having shared in that manner. So be very, very careful about what you put in there. And it's happened on more than one occasion. It's not only the written word, by the way, that has the ability to do real career damage. Sometimes it's our own actions, the word coming out of our own mouth. In our recording on 3 common career killers, we discuss what they are. We'll have a link to it in the show notes. And of course, on YouTube, a link will appear to the left. So good luck.